Welcome to the Banyan Books podcast. I'm your host, Ross McKeachie, and I'm very delighted to be welcoming to our show tonight Almaas. Before we get to his formal introduction, some Banyan announcements. We would like to acknowledge that Banyan Books and Sound is located on the traditional and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Banyan Books and Sound is in its 50th anniversary this year, 50 years as a local and independent bookstore. Please, everybody, support your local independent bookstores. And every time you make a purchase from Banyan Books, you support all kinds of wonderful programs like this one tonight. Our guest this evening, Almaas, is the pen name of A. Hamid Ali, founder of the Diamond Approach to Self-Realization, a contemporary teaching that developed within the context of both ancient spiritual teachings and modern depth psychology theories. Watkins Review cites him as one of the world's 100 most spiritually influential people. A bit of history and context about our guest. He was born in Kuwait in 1944, and at the age of 18, he moved to the US to study at the University of California in Berkeley. Hamid was working on his PhD in physics when he reached a turning point in his life and destiny that led him to inquire into the psychological and spiritual aspects of human nature rather than the physical nature of the universe. He left the academic world to pursue an in-depth journey of inner discovery, applying his scientific precision and discipline to personal, experiential research. Hamid's process of exploration led to the creation of the Ridwan School, and with Karen Johnson, resulted in the founding and unfoldment of the Diamond Approach. Our honored guest has authored 20 books about spiritual realization, including the Diamond Heart series, Pearl Beyond Price, Love Unveiled, and Runaway Realization. Today, he is with Banyan Books in conversation about his newest book titled Keys to the Enneagram: How to Unlock the Highest Potential of Every Personality Type. Jessica Dibb, host of the Shift Network annual Enneagram Global Summit, says this: there are few teachers of consciousness, let alone Enneagram teachers, who can perceive, embody, articulate, and transmit the simultaneous arising of equal facets of spaciousness and singularity, expansion and particularity, personal love and emptiness, and personal will and surrender, all while focused on the vital need to awaken to our essential nature and potential. Like the Enneagram, Almaas himself is a tuning fork for this possibility of development and living. And somehow in Keys to the Enneagram, he gently and firmly guides us onto that precise and expansive, authentic path beyond our fascination with personality. Before we know it, we've been initiated into a lineage of truth and presence. If you'd like to learn more about our guest's work, please visit his website, which is diamondapproach.org. On behalf of the Banyan Books community, I'm really delighted to welcome Almaas to our program. Hamid, thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here and to be put to some use.
Now, in the dedication of your book, at the opening, it reads, dedicated to the Sarmun Dark, the ancient spiritual school whose grace and intention are an important current in the Diamond Approach. Then in your introduction, you describe an experience you had in 1973, a particular type of ego death that you call the Sarmun type of ego death. So I'm wondering if, to start with, you can tell us the meaning of Sarmun and about this experience and the influence this has had in your life and work.
Well, the understanding of some knowledge that has been given by different people is that the Sarmun Dark is an ancient spiritual organization, a certain spiritual community that is maybe 5, 6, 7,000 years old. And Sarmun Dark means the beehive. And the way, the understanding that came through many traditions, the Sarmun Dark, they saw themselves, they practiced all the time, and they did their own inner work, so that each one of them becomes a jar of honey. So when the time comes, humanity is in need. This elixir, this honey of the spirit, can be given to various teachings that are declining or needing some kind of regeneration.
Wonderful, thank you. How did your connection with this lineage lead to the writing of the book Facets of Unity, which it connects then to this newest book?
Well, first of all, I mean, the understanding from the people who brought the Enneagram to the West is that it originates with the Sarmun Dark. And the experience I had was of being melted by honey with the sound of bees. You know, that's what the experience, you know, it's experience some kind of prayer, actually, specific kind of, it's called objective prayers in Gurdjieff language. And there were, at some point, as the ego self, so with humility saw its limitation and was able to let go, there descended sort of like nectar that has the viscosity and density and sweetness of honey, and that melted not just my sense of my body, melted my consciousness, and I was gone. I was like unconscious. Wasn't just, not like I died physically, my consciousness disappeared. And that's what ego death frequently is that the consciousness will fall away, won't be there. And so not all kind of ego death, you lose sense of having a conscious experience. Some kind of death called cessation, Buddha called it cessation. So it is a cessation of sensation and perception of any kind without it being sleep, right? However, it happened through a grace, it's like a blessing of honey and the delicious sound of bees buzzing around, and there's no bees in my room, but it was all in my consciousness. So in that sense, I saw it, understood it as a Sarmun, related to the Sarmun, because that is their symbol, the bees. And them, they're makers of honey.
Mm-hmm. And the book Facets of Unity, what is the relationship between that book and how does it then tie into your newest one, Keys to the Enneagram?
See, Facets of Unity is something I wrote about 20 years ago. And it is about the Enneagram that's called the Enneagram Holy Ideas, which is what's called the higher Enneagrams, like the Enneagram fixations, the Enneagram virtues, and the Enneagram Holy Ideas. The Enneagram fixation is the level of the personality. Enneagram virtues is the awakened heart. Enneagram of fixation is awakening as a whole, awakened mind and total awakening. And the Holy Ideas is basically is a view of non-dual experience, non-dual reality, seen from 9 angles. Instead of just one angle, non-duality, there's no separateness, no separate self. Here it sees it as no self, no separate will, no separate identity, no, it goes on like that. So, but it is the knowledge that appeared to me, that became the knowledge about the holy ideas, happened with the knowledge that comes in this book, Keys to the Enneagram. They were sort of happening together. But I didn't think of writing the Keys to the Enneagram at that time. I thought the holy idea was an important thing to write. Nobody written anything about the holy ideas of any important, just the names there, out there, or a definition. So there was a book about what is the holy idea, what kind of experience gives birth to the holy ideas, and what are the obstacles to having that kind of view of reality. Because the holy ideas are understanding and not exactly experiences, spiritual experiences, understanding of that results from spiritual experiencing. It's called the view of reality. The view that non-dual realization gives, but from a 9 different angles. Now, that one, I think of it as giving the understanding of the core of each type, any type. Core means the inner, hidden core that most people are not in touch with. And it doesn't have the patterns, the dynamic, and the characteristics of the outer part that most people know as the type. That I call the shell of the type. And so the holy idea is exploration of the core and how to be free from the core through the holy ideas, and also by being free from the core, you can access the realm of the holy ideas. This present book, Keys to the Enneagram, has to do with the shell of the type, which is what constitutes the shell, and the key is how to open up the shell so that we'll be free from that shell. And the shell, because the shell of the type, for most people, is very rigid, fixed, and unchanging set of patterns of behavior and feeling and perception, all of that we call the ego. There are types of ego, or type of personality, ego personality. So the keys is how to be free from the rigidity and the fixation, so we have more freedom, more flexibility, and we're not bound and defined by those patterns, by those behavior configuration, by that history, by those traits. And in some sense, I wrote this book, The Keys of the Enneagram, because I saw that the book of Holy Idea was more difficult to access material in it, because it's a more has to do with a non-dual awakening, which is rare. Not many people have non-dual awakening. It's a difficult place to get to. And so I wrote this book because you don't need to have that. You don't have to go to that level. You don't need to be free from the totality of your ego. You can be free from sectors of the ego. And that is by working with the shell, because each type is a sector of that shell. And by being free from the shell, then the core is exposed. And we have the keys that help us, be free from the shell. And those keys are tremendous help in penetrating the core, being free from the confines of the inner core. Because the inner core has in it not only some emotionally difficult things, but has in it structures of consciousness and mind that are wrong beliefs, wrong, I call them delusions.
Speaking of delusions, you talk about the core being formed as when we're infants and children, and you talk about the specific difficulty, the specific reaction, the specific delusion. And probably that's a good starting point for our understanding before we get into ego ideals and unique essential endowments. Can you tell us a bit about the specific difficulty, reaction, and delusion?
Yeah, these are the things that most people don't experience. That's why I call it the core. I should have called it the hidden core. It's like the core of the earth is very deep inside, you know. So it's deep inside any personality, any sense of being a self or an individual, and it impacts our outer experience without us knowing it. So the inner core is constituted what I call specific difficulty and reaction and delusion. Delusion basically means our experience is not informed by the specific holy idea of our type. So we have a belief that develops because of that. That becomes what I call a delusion, which is a wrong view of reality. And then let me give you an example, for instance, in point 5, for instance, the holy idea is holy transparency or holy omniscience, which means everything is transparent to everything else. There's no separateness of things. Everything is connected. The whole world, the whole universe, all our experiences are all patterns in one unified fabric. And that is the holy idea. So the delusion is the belief in being a separate person, separate individual. You see? And that which is the main delusion for dualistic experience. And the difficulty usually, and the reason I'm talking about delusion first is that it patterns both the difficulty and the reaction. The difficulty is that in early childhood, we all come into the world trusting people, trusting beings, trusting open, vulnerable, open to learn without even thinking about it or knowing it. We are receptive and malleable and impressionable kind of consciousness, alive, responsive consciousness. But we are young and not able to fend for ourselves, and we cannot survive. We need the care of our environment, especially our family environment, parental figures. We need what I call a holding environment, adequately holding environment. Everybody needs an adequately holding environment to survive physically and also emotionally. Some of us survive physically, but emotionally we're pretty scarred. And so the specific difficulty is the limitation and disruption in the holding environment at the beginning. Either there could be violence or sometimes neglect or forgetfulness or lack of love or rejection or or it could be the environment itself. There can be fear in the family or disruption in the marriage or the family, or there is a state of war or something like that. So the environment is not full of love and holding and comforting and kindness that the baby soul, the baby consciousness needs. And when the environment is not there, is not holding, it's like the baby feels nothing holding it. It's like almost emotionally feels like similar to when the body is drops, it's not being held. Like there's nothing there to hold you. And that feels not only empty, but impoverished and painful. And the pain and difficulty depends on each type. And there's a very, so specific difficulty is specific to each type. And the difficulty is a painful emotional state that both an emptiness and a difficult affect, difficult feeling. The reaction is a reaction to that, a reaction to it, to sort of deal with it. And the reaction tend to be defensive and attempts at covering it, attempts at sort of not feeling it, not could be the denial or repression. Usually it is repression, but the reaction, the 9 kinds of reaction. So the reaction is a way to deal with the difficulty, but both the reaction and the difficulty, the affect in them, the affect in the difficulty, the feeling of the difficulty, the emotional feeling, and what the reaction is like are patterned by the delusion.
Thank you.
Yeah.
From there, we get into the ego ideal, which you say is the ego's way, or the fixation shell's way of dealing with not being in touch with our unique and essential endowment. Can you speak about the connection between those two first? Maybe fill us in on what the ego ideal is.
Okay, so the ego ideal is the way the specific reaction becomes expressed. The specific reaction is not just one emotional response, it's a whole way of dealing with life, a whole response to situations, whole response. And so, so although I write about specific reactions in the book Fast of Unity, but that becomes filled out by what I call the ego ideal, in the sense that the consciousness tries to cover that inner core, the difficult inner core, with a shell that is patterned by an ideal that the individual consciousness develops. And it's like every human being actually has an ideal and an ideal image of how they want to be, what kind of person they want to be, what they live up to, what kind of life they're going to have, what they want to do. And it's an ideal that we all have in our mind that drives our actions, interaction, responses, but it ends up patterning our various relationships and behaviors, and because and determines actually the patterns and the traits of each type. So that's how we end up seeing the types of their patterns. Like for point 8, for instance, the ego venge, for instance. The ego ideal is being strong and aggressive, right? Strength, being strong and powerful, having power and having authority. So the 8 want to be strong and powerful, and but then that, because the ego ideal is not a reflection of a true quality of our conscious true nature, but there's some kind of a distortion. And the ideal of being strong becomes being a bully, being loud, being boisterous, being insensitive to other people, being, power mad kind of person, which is the worst in the ego 8, right? So fixated mean you become really the worst of that type. So The ego ideal is to be strong and be assertive, right? But because that is sort of a sense of what it's like to be, but it becomes, because of the impacts of our growing up years and various experiences and the difficulties in the original holding environment, it becomes distorted. So the ideal becomes being interested in power and being big and bigger and winning and the kind of thing that determine the traits that many people know as the number Enneagram 8 is.
So let's say, for example, with type 8, the ego ideal is this strength and aggression,
Yeah.
which is a substitute for being in touch with that aspect of true nature or being, which you call true strength. So
Yeah.
can you, through that gateway, maybe you can describe for us what is the unique essential endowment or essential quality? And
Yeah. So that takes us into understanding where the ego ideal come from, right? It is the way the reaction gloves itself, forms itself by using the ego ideal. But the ego ideal doesn't come from accidentally, it doesn't come from us idealizing some movie star or something like that. It comes from something we have known, we have experienced some point in our life, early life. So we have some sense of it, but we lost touch with it. We don't have it by the time the fixation forms around age 7 or so. And so we have some kind of sense and intimation, but it's not exactly what it is, and becomes a little bit twisted and changed and distorted, and not the ideal. It becomes sort of, the ideal is an approximation, is a facsimile of the real thing, because the real thing, the ideal, is what we were feeling, experiencing earlier on, we lost contact with, which is a quality of our true nature, of our spiritual nature, a quality of our true being. So point 8, the quality, because true being is not just being, it's not just pure consciousness. I mean, there is such thing, but pure consciousness, or pure being, expresses itself in many qualities that are meaningful to us, human being, important for our lives, and important for traversing any spiritual path. So the quality here that is being approximated, that the 8 are trying to be, right, is what I call essential strength, which is a feeling of a presence that has a sense of heat, sense of expansion, sense of being full of some kind of of being impregnated by a fullness that is energetic, that is alive, that is vigorous, that is pure strength, and not the strength of anything, but strength in its own, pure strength. That's why I call them sometimes Platonic ideas, because they're not qualities of anything else. They are qualities of spirit itself. Pure strength is just strength. And the thing that many people don't know, when we say, once we say strength, they mean my body is strong. This person has strength, or they could lift some weight, or the strength of character, they could withstand this and that. So strength is always associated with something. However, spiritual strength has nothing to do with these things. That might be beyond them, behind them, but it is being strength. It's a presence of consciousness, compact. Almost you're full of compact substance, compact fluid, dense red, ruby red fluid that feels alive, feels beautiful, makes you feel expanded, makes you feel, yes, I can live, I can be myself, and I can live my life the way that is right for me. So that is the true strength. That's the true strength is really a quality of consciousness, pure consciousness. It is consciousness that knows itself. So strength, when I am strength, I am strength that knows that I am strength. The strength is being strength, just like saying, I am that I am. That comes from the Bible. Here, I am strength, strength that knows it is strength. That is the quality of pure strength. And that is what the eight really is their natural endowment. They're born with that quality available and strongest in them, you see. But then they become alienated from it. And what's left is some kind of facsimile, what I call a false quality of strength, which then becomes like physical strength or being in a position that is stronger than the other, or bullying kind of strength, or the many kinds of strength that we know in our culture. It's external strength, while essential strength is inner strength, and strength of spirit, strength of being. So that gives us an idea what I mean by essential quality. So if number 8 can recognize their whole character is based around an ideal of how they want to be, and begin to recognize the ideal, and somebody recognize that this ideal is not exactly a description or a mirror image of the true strength, but has a twist, has a distortion that opens up the field for the true strength to emerge. Gives the person the possibility of recognizing the true strength and where this approximation comes from, where this facsimility comes from. If the facsimile doesn't come from nowhere, it comes from some real place.
Thank you. So maybe we can move into talking about some of the specific unique endowments. We've touched on 8. I'm curious about 2, the unique essential endowment, which you call merging love. And you, in the book, you say, it is the heart in a true way, a way necessary for all the heart-centered or bhakti paths, because it is needed for connecting to the divine, for becoming one with the divine. In our work, we refer to it as merging gold for very important reasons. Many people think of love as golden, but only this love is truly golden. Can you tell us more about this quality of merging love, this golden love?
I call it gold because there are other kinds of love too. Many kinds of love. Some are pink, some are gold, some are pomegranate color. So, and each one has a different meaning, different quality. Like the pomegranate love is a passionate love that happens when you're in love. But merging gold, merging essence, has to do with the characteristics of that type, which is, if you remember from reading the book, the ego ideal has to do with being a helper, helping and giving, the helper and giving. And the reason that twos are helpful and giving, whatever, is basically really for connection, to get connected with somebody. They want to be special and helping somebody special. So they begin to have some kind of a connection, relationship where they feel important and worthy and all of that. And so what they're looking for really is some kind of love that has to do with connection, has to do with intimacy, it has to do with sharing. It's a sweetness that when we experience, we feel generous. That's why giving is an approximation to it, the usual giving and helpfulness, which is frequently manipulative and part of two. While the giving of the golden love is natural, spontaneous, free, out of law. The golden love is similar actually to the honey. It, however, is delicate, much more delicate than honey, and it's not sticky as honey. It's like liquid sunshine, but it is sweet, and it feels sweet. I mean, when they say love is sweet, you always wonder, why do they say love is sweet? When they say somebody's loving, they say they're sweet. Why do they say that? Because love tastes sweet. You feel the experience of love itself. It's the heart tastes sweetness. So for spiritual experience, the taste is not only in the tongue, it's also in the heart. That's why my spiritual teaching is say the heart tastes the flavor of spirit. So the golden love is sweet in a particular way, just like other kind of love are sweet in a different way. It's sweet, but it is melty. It melts the heart. It has a sense of being melted into when one experiences the merging love or the golden love in their heart, they feel melted from inside, surrendered. Like your heart become like a puddle of golden nectar, but transparent and clear, as if it is the color of honey with the sunlight going through it. That's how you see it. How you feel it is a fluid that is smooth, that is non-sticky, that is more dense than water, less dense than honey, right? But it is very soft and smooth and has a melty thing like buttery meltiness, and it's the sweetness. I cannot give you an earthly counterpart to the sweetness. So some of the other things, like pomegranate, tastes like actual pomegranate, for instance. But the golden love, I don't know of any taste in earth that is approximating that taste. It's just heavenly. It tastes like beautiful kind of sweetness, and the heart is overflowing, and you feel like you're shining, and your skin gets smooth, and you're sort of dripping with love. And when somebody feels that, especially when somebody feels that way with somebody else, it's like they almost can't feel separate from that. They feel connected. The connection is so deep, as if there is no boundaries between them, as if it becomes similar to the way the baby is with the mother. The baby with the mother, they don't see them experience themselves as somebody separate. They and the mother, there's almost two in one. So that, because the quality of merging love was present there, you see, when the holding environment is good, the usual relationship between a loving mother and a satisfied baby is the presence of emerging love. That is the self being nourished, being loved, being taken care of, being comforted, being at ease. And so all these are the nature of characteristic of the golden love, and all people want that. I mean, why do people want relation? That's one thing important that people want in a relationship, whether it's friend, not only intimate relationship. I mean, even friendship, family relationship. You want some connection, you feel like when people say, I feel connected, or I'm not connected, I'm distant, or I'm near. This is connection, but you're feeling the actual substance of connection, the very presence of connection, instead of just emotional feeling of connection. No, this is the very essence of connection. And why you feel connected to somebody and not, or not. Because this is really present. And most people, when they feel connected to somebody else, they're feeling the outer ripples of this love. They're not feeling directly the love itself. To feel the love itself, your heart melts and it becomes full of this golden nectar. And you feel it as a presence, as an isness that then suffuses the whole conscious, the whole body, melts the body, it relaxes, it becomes easy and soft and malleable, and your whole conscious soul sort of loses boundaries. You can meld, and that becomes a way sometimes to unite with the divine, to be one with the ultimate. That's why I say it is the very essence of the bhakti urge.
Beautiful.
Emotional path.
Thank you. Now, for any of these essential qualities, you point to two ways to actually, in practice, start accessing them. And the first way you talk about is through the ego ideal. But I'm wondering if we could use this merging love or any other point as an example for what you call the more direct path to tapping into these qualities, where you use the theory of wholes or a tantric, more of a tantric practice.
Yeah, you see, in the work I do, the teaching I give, the Enneagram is part of what I use. The Enneagram is one important modality I use for teaching, but I use many other modalities. So, but the larger envelope is a matter of exploring our experience, whatever it is, regardless of what type we are. Forget the type and just explore your experience. And so the direct path for direct approach, call it diamond approach, is to explore whether we have the quality or not. Like if we feel wanting strength, for instance, right? And we feel weak, or we recognize our strength is not a real strength. Both of those indicate there is some strength we're not in touch with. So direct path is looking at either the absence of the quality or recognizing the imitation, the facsimile of it as a facsimile. 4.2, for instance, the facsimile is the helpfulness, the gentleness, giving and helping and being good that way. But the twos are usually feeling needy. They're usually needy, and then needy for close contact. And if you not be controlled by the ego ideal and feel the neediness and what you want. And the needy shows that you want something, but you think you get it from being close to somebody or some community, while it is really just an inner need. If you feel the inner need, that leads us to the fact that this quality of being is not there. We don't have access to it. That lack of access will appear as some kind of emptiness. I call it a deficient emptiness, which feels like an emptiness with a feeling of lack or absence or deprivation of a nourishing love. And if you feel that, if you're able to see it, that becomes the direct way for the love to arise. Because that hole is just the gap between where we experience ourselves and where our spiritual nature is. If we allow ourselves to feel the gap, then the fluids will begin to flow. So there are two, but the book gives the Enneagram, the types, And there, if we know our types well, and we have studied their pattern, and we explored the psychological pattern and their history and all of that, we might be able to access the quality through knowing our ego ideal. That is another way. But there are many qualities than 9, first of all. The Enneagram talks about 9. There are many more.
Thank you. We have some really good questions coming in from the live audience here.
And I'm glad there are good questions.
Yeah. The first one is there's a question from Leah and one from Mary. I'm going to go with Mary's because it's very similar. So, Leah, just so you know,
Yeah.
Leah's was to do with karma. Mary's is phrased slightly differently. She says, Hamid, does the soul come into this life with an inclination toward a type?
Well, you see, I don't know because I have not studied the Enneagram by studying children. So that's not my understanding. The people who taught the Enneagram, who brought it to the West, they say that our type is dictated by the time we are born. It is basically dictated by the stars. It's not like we come with an inclination or anything. It's at the time we are born, the year and time we're born. That's what the transmitted knowledge says. And I don't know if it's true or not.
Okay, thank you. Michael, who is a diamond student, says, you have said that the logos of the Enneagram is close and compatible, but not exactly the same as the diamond approach. I'm not solid on the meaning of logos. Could you describe what you mean by similar and difference? And also, is breathwork intrinsic to either logos?
Breathwork is not intrinsic to the Enneagram. Enneagram, many people do Enneagram, they don't know nothing about breathwork. We do in our school, our teaching, we use breathwork as part of our methodology. And the logos of the Enneagram, I think what I meant by it, if I said it, is the view, the worldview of the Enneagram. Is not exactly the worldview of the Dian approach, because the worldview of the Dian approach is larger and contains the view of the Enneagram. It's a larger view that contains many other things that are not contained in the world of the Enneagram. So they're not exactly, but there's an intersection. You see, the diamond approach, basically, I borrow, especially when it comes to psychologically, I borrow from different places. I borrow from psychoanalysis, I borrow from attachment theory, and I borrow from the Enneagram, you see. But the Enneagram has some spiritual dimensions to it, spiritual perspectives, which are very handy to use also, because I use also spiritual ideas from other teachings. Like Diamond approach has emptiness, for instance, in it. So I study Buddhism, they're specialized in emptiness. So they have, 2,500 years knowledge of emptiness. So I could learn more that way, and I learn more about emptiness. So that way we could say Diamond approach, when you read that Diamond approach grew within the context of many traditions, right? That's one meaning. But the Enneagram is actually something I learned since I was young, as I was developing spiritually. So it became part of what I know and part of what, much of the knowledge, the approach is a whole world of spiritual knowledge and experience. And part of that can be put on the map of the Enneagram, not all of it.
Thank you. There's a question from Krista, which is a follow-up to something you said a few minutes ago. She says, what do you mean there are many more than 9? What other types are there?
There is, for instance, joy, pure and adulterated joy. It's not in any of the 9. There is, for instance, kindness, compassion. Is not one of the 9 qualities of the types. There is, for instance, the aspect of truth, pure truth, truth that is not true statement. It's what makes statement true. It's what makes us know something is true, is inherent sense of just truth. You know, just like strength is just strength. This is truth, just truth. Truth is not one of the qualities. There's existence, for instance, pure existence. Not the existence of something, but pure existence. It is the existence of everything. So that's another quality. There is a quality of clarity. Pure, transparent clarity. Like, you know, point 1 has the aspect of intelligence in it. That has to do with completeness and perfection. That has, most people think of intelligence has to do with the mind. It does, but also the heart can be intelligent, the body can be intelligent. But there is a clarity, and clarity is a transparency that has to do with being clear in your mind, but it can be clear about your experience. And that is a quality that's used in Buddhism a lot, because Buddhism is talk about empty clarity as the pure awareness that they think is enlightenment. For instance, there is a quality of stillness, peacefulness, another quality. Stillness, peacefulness is like you become the presence of peace. I'm not peaceful, I am peace. So there are many qualities. It's over 30, I think. I don't know how many there are. I don't know if I know all of them.
Thank you.
But the Enneagram really gives us a very good sense of what a spiritual quality is, because there are qualities, and there are also 2 of the types I talk about, a vehicle or a body, like number 7 is the body of pleasure, right? The body of pleasure is all the qualities appearing as pleasure. Compassion appearing as pleasure, strength appearing as pleasure, love appearing as a pleasure, stillness appearing as pleasure. And it's a whole body, a constellation quality appearing in certain configuration that becomes the ideal quality of number 7. So the Enneagram shows that, which is that the qualities can be combined and certain natural company that arise on their own. I call them diamond vehicles.
That makes me think of point number 9, where you say that there's this quality of being asleep to reality and who we are as the primary element that's present in all of the other points and all of the other fixations.
Yeah.
How does this show up specifically in point 9?
Point 9, the main thing about point 9 is comfort and lack of conflict, which make them deny conflict and difficulties. And that happens by numbing themselves. So the quality, Oscar Chazo calls it sloth. They become slothful, lazy, and the best word is asleep. Asleep to what is significant. asleep to what matters. And they're looking for comfort because for some kind of comfort, some kind of ease, because their idealized aspect is another kind of love. I call it universal love, which is a love that is, when you feel it, you feel it's everywhere. It's not my love, it's divine love, God's heart. And that's why it is the primary type, is the primary, it's the point from which all the other points come.
Tima is wondering, do you have any advice on how couples can use Enneagrams to deepen their relationship?
Well, I'm sure there are people who are doing that, therapists and teachers who use the Enneagram for couple counseling and stuff like that. And I think, by studying the type of your partners, you get to understand them. And if you do, both of you do that, you get to understand each other and recognize it's not personal to you, the way they're behaving. That's the way their type is. And that you might also start seeing what is the quality that they are trying to be with you. And that you can become good mirrors for each other's to recognize the true essential quality. So it's not only just helping the relationship, but helping each one go deeper into themselves, which can really deepen the relationship. The true deep relationship is the relationship that expresses our true authenticity, our true nature. So when the contact or the love or interaction there is coming from the most real place. So it can't help but be good and enhancing for both. So yes, the Enneagram can be used that way. It's a big topic, to talk about that. And I'm sure there are people who already written books about it.
Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. Before we close, Hamid, I'd like to ask you about, you point to the need to make sure that we're not just focusing on our own type, but that as we go deeper into the work, we need to go through all the types, and that we have all of those types and all of those fixations in our ego structures. Can you talk about that?
So the way I understand the Enneagram is that your own type is the most dominant, the one you first become aware of. But that doesn't mean the fixations of the other type are not present in you, because each ego has 9 complexes in it, really, has 9 cores. But your particular core is the most dominant. However, as you become more liberated from the confines and the fixation, rigidity of the shell of your type, you become aware of that you also have the shell of other types. So it's not only you have to study it, it will come up anyway. But it's good to study the Enneagram from that perspective, in the sense of seeing those types in us, the characteristic and the patterns of each type in us, because they are all true about all egos, even though one of them is the primary one, the most dominant, but they're all present because there are 9 delusions. And the ego has all 9 delusions. Everybody who identifies with the ego self has a delusion of being a separate individual, has a delusion of being a separate identity, have a delusion of being a separate functionality, has a delusion of having a separate will, has all of you have all the delusions. So as you begin to know your delusion, it's good to know, remember, you're not completely awakened yet. Although many awakened people, they think they're finished. No, there are other delusions they haven't penetrated yet. So it's good but that's, some people think it's a trouble, but it's really fun. You just discover more things, more things about yourself, about reality. What's there to do in our life? Just eat and sleep. Discovering reality and in the universe is the fun of being here, of having a consciousness that can experience and understand. So I appreciate being with everybody, and I thank people for asking questions. And also thank you, Ross, for your question. Your questions are very encompassing.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It's really an honor to have you as a guest, and we'd love to have you back another day too.
Hopefully, yeah, there'll be another book and come back again.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I might be there in person next time, hopefully.
Oh, that would be the best.
Yeah, that will be, yeah.
We've been speaking to A.H. Almaas about his newest book, Keys to the Enneagram: How to Unlock the Highest Potential of Every Personality Type. A big thank you to the whole Banyan Books community and to Banyan's wonderful podcast producer and events and programming curator, Jacob Steele, who brings all these great programs to us. Big thanks to you, Hamid.
And I want to thank Banyen for inviting me. Yeah, as a guest.
An honor to have you.